What if the person destroying your confidence looks perfect at first? What if the most dangerous relationships don't begin with toxicity, but with obsession? Because narcissistic people rarely appear toxic in the beginning. In fact, they often feel addictive. Intense attention, constant validation, extreme chemistry. And that's exactly why so many men miss the warning signs until they're emotionally trapped. But today, we're breaking down the difference between healthy attraction and narcissistic manipulation. Because spotting these signs early can save you years of emotional damage. And one of the biggest red flags usually appears long before the relationship becomes toxic. Most men just don't recognize it. Now, obviously, not every confident or emotionally expressive woman is narcissistic. That's important to understand. Healthy women can be passionate, affectionate, confident, even emotionally intense sometimes. The problem is not intensity. The problem is control. Because narcissistic relationships often follow a very specific pattern. First, they idealize you. Then, they slowly destabilize you. And finally, they make you feel like you're the problem. Without realizing it, you slowly stop feeling emotionally safe around them. And that's where things become dangerous. One of the first major warning signs is emotional inconsistency. One day you're perfect. The next day, you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Healthy relationships feel emotionally stable, not emotionally confusing. Because real love creates security. Manipulation creates anxiety. Another huge red flag is when everything becomes about validation. At first, it can feel flattering. She constantly wants attention, reassurance, admiration. But over time, you realize nothing is ever enough. No matter how much effort you give, the emotional hunger never stops, and slowly, your role changes. You stop being a partner and start becoming an emotional supplier. That's exhausting, but here's where narcissistic dynamics become truly dangerous. They often destroy your self-esteem quietly, not through obvious abuse, but through subtle emotional erosion. Little criticisms, passive-aggressive comments, making you feel guilty for having boundaries, making you apologize for things that aren't your fault, until eventually you start doubting yourself constantly. And the scary part? Most people don't notice it happening in real time. But the biggest difference between healthy women and narcissistic women has nothing to do with confidence or beauty or even personality. It comes down to one thing most people completely overlook. And once you understand this, you'll never see toxic relationships the same way again. Healthy women want connection. Narcissistic women want control. That's the difference. Healthy love allows individuality. You feel respected, safe, emotionally calm. You can disagree without punishment. You can express needs without fear. But narcissistic dynamics operate through emotional power. Approval becomes conditional. Affection becomes unpredictable. And love starts feeling like a performance instead of peace. That's why one of the clearest signs of a healthy relationship is actually emotional stability, not emotional chaos. Because real attraction does not require emotional suffering to feel exciting. That's something movies romanticized. But healthy relationships rarely feel like constant psychological warfare. The truth is, toxic people rarely reveal themselves immediately. That's why so many intelligent people end up trapped in destructive relationships. Not because they're weak, but because manipulation often feels like passion in the beginning. And the earlier you learn to recognize emotional control, validation addiction, and instability, the easier it becomes to protect your peace. Because the right relationship will challenge you sometimes, but it will never slowly destroy your sense of self. And honestly, Peace is one of the most underrated forms of attraction there is.